Hey everybody, it's Pastor Paul from the Reformed Presbyterian Church in Hazleton. I was asked recently on one of the comments, because we do read the comments and pay attention to them, and I was asked, why do we go to church on Sunday? And that's actually a pretty deep question to be asked, and so we're probably going to break this down into a couple of little videos dealing with this. And today, though, I really want to address the question, is there one day in particular that we should be going to worship? And along that lines, I've heard people ask through the years, isn't all of life supposed to be worship, and therefore there isn't a special day? It doesn't really matter if it's a Tuesday or a Sunday. We should be worshiping on any of those days, and we don't need that one special day. I really want to get into that because I do think the scriptures address that question. Is there a special day of the week? Well, I think if we go back and we just look at the basics of creation and then all on through the rest of the Bible, we find that there is a special day of the week, and we do start with creation. In Genesis chapter 2, we find out that there was one special day. Genesis 2, starting in verse 1, then the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. And so we find this pattern that emerges right at creation, that God worked for 6 days, and then he rested on the seventh day. More than that, he blessed, he sanctified, he made that seventh day holy. So one day out of the 7 was for rest, and the other 6 were for work. Same thing begins to emerge when we get to Mount Sinai and the giving of the law to Moses. The 4th commandment again teaches that there is that one special day to rest before the Lord. One day out of 7 is set aside. And then Moses goes on in Leviticus 23 verse 3, and he writes, 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work on it. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. And I really want to zoom in on that word convocation. It's not just a day of rest, but it's a holy convocation. What does that mean? Convocation is a gathering together. It was not just the day for the Jews to rest, but it was the day for them to gather together in the temple or in the synagogues that they might worship the Lord and hear from him. One day out of the 7 was for rest and for worship. It's a special day for corporate worship. And we come into the New Testament, and Jesus keeps the Sabbath over and over again. He is there in the tabernacle, in the temple or in the synagogues, worshiping with the people and resting from his other work. As we get into the book of Acts, we see the Apostle Paul and others doing their missions, and they would go around the world, and they would start to the Jews first, and so they would go and worship on the Sabbath day, on the 7th day, and keeping that same principle of 1 in 7 was for rest and worship. Of course, the church we also find in the book of Acts was gathering on the first day of the week, still that one day out of 7 that they would gather for worship. And that later becomes called the Lord's Day, and we'll deal with that some other time as well. But there's this principle all through the Bible of one day of the week, 1 in 7, is special to the Lord. It is for resting, and it is for worship. And all of society has known this as well. It's not just Christians, it's not just Jews, but Islam and others have had that one special day. They've recognized this because it comes from creation itself. That one day in 7 is needed to rest and also to worship the Lord. And if anybody watching this is over the age of about 40, you probably remember growing up when most businesses were closed, when most of our society even understood one day out of 7 for rest and for worship. So I'm going to stop there with that basic principle. 1 in 7 to rest and worship is what is prescribed in the scriptures. We'll just remember as well, the internet is not church. So find yourself a local Bible-believing, Christ-centered congregation that you can go and worship in one day out of 7. We'll catch you later.